Alright, hello and welcome to the first of presumably many introduction videos on real life applications of Triad principles and the 48 laws of power. Long intro. Um, my, the Reddit username and the YouTube username that I will be using to upload these particular videos is Triad Moribund. And Moribund is an apt moniker because the word itself means dead or dying, which is appropriate in many ways because, I don't know, you could look at it in a few different ways. It's a description of the social state of our current society. Um, it's a description of the empowered culture that we currently represent. Um, the authority we have over other people. It can mean any number of things, and I think that ambiguity is part of a well-designed Machiavellian, I suppose. Any ambiguous deception they practice is beneficial to their real life in many ways that I will probably get into, but I'm getting a little off track, so I will steer myself back on course. Now that you know my name, I suppose, oops, pardon me, I can offer a couple credentials and reasoning behind why I'm making this video. There was a personality test, for lack of a better term, provided on the Illimitable Men blog. And I took that, and according to that particular test, I don't know how many people have taken it. I don't know whether or not it's a valid measurement of potential or capacity. But what I do know is I am the highest rated Machiavellian to ever have taken that test. I am within the top 12th percentile of narcissists, um, and yet I am only, I think, average in terms of psychopathy. I am not a natural born psychopath, I am not a natural born narcissist, and I am not a natural born Machiavellian, which may diminish my standings in some of your eyes, but nevertheless, I am here offering information, so you may as well take it. Before we begin, I would like to offer a disclaimer in the fact that this video itself, some of the descriptions I may offer, and some of the things that I may say are probably going to go against many of the laws outlined in the Green Manual. And you know what? That's fine. Purely because um, you do not really have to follow each of those laws at every given point in time. Some of them counterintuitively go against themselves, which I find a little odd. Let me just change my brush real quick. There we go. Okay, so we have the triad, and each of these particular categories that you should know off by heart at this point, I won't bother to go through them again, have various different uses in real life situations. I would rate them as probably the most useful, second most useful, and probably the third most useful, although these two are probably interchangeable. Um, and why I'll rate this as the first one is because in any given social scenario, you have probably, I would say, conversation path number one and conversation path number two. You can say whatever you want over here. I'm gonna be like, all right, and there are two conflicting sentences. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with statistics, but after you go into that, it becomes more or less a tree diagram where you have outcome number, sorry, you have outcome number one, two, and then that creates a three and a four. Uh, Yes, all right, I think that's about right. A clever or talented Machiavellian can predict all four of these outcomes and potentially more that may occur through other creative language. But the key is that he is able to predict them. And obviously, I shouldn't need to explain that that has many benefits in social situations. Because if you are able to estimate how someone will react to any given sentence or any given response to any given stimuli, you will be able to adjust your stimuli accordingly. Example would be if you, forgive my crude caricatures, are speaking to another person in, say, a workplace or something, and you, being the lazy man that you are, would like them to take on a share of your workload. Now, you can opt for conversation path number 1, conversation path number 2, compensation path number 3. All right? Number 1 is an appeal to his self-interest from a flattering point of view. Number 2 is a direct command, and number 3 is groveling. Obviously, number 2 is going to get you nowhere because no sane person would ever take more work on just because someone else asked him to, unless that person was very charitable or something, but that's an extreme fringe case and probably should not be considered. So, a Machiavellian would be able to recognize that and eliminate here, as I have done here, from his intended approach. That just leaves the appeal to self-interest and the groveling. Now, this is a very simple case, and I'm sure the majority of you will be able to pick up that an appeal to his self-interest, as outlined in Robert Greene, is the better strategy here. So that just leaves us with number 1. That was merely an example of how Machiavellianism can be applied to everyday scenarios, and having realized that, it should be very easy to adapt all of it to your particular scenarios, whatever they may be. So next I will look at narcissism, which can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. I regard Machiavellianism as purely positive and the other two categories as situationally appropriate, because narcissism can be good as a confidence booster. It can add that swagger to your step. It can allow you to walk into an office or schoolyard or whatever, place of business you may be occupying at any given point in time, and own the floor with your natural, self-assured nature. However, it can also go too far, and some critical narcissists, especially if they are psychopaths that have no knowledge of emotions, will take it too far to the point that it seems off-putting to other people, which is why I personally have designed more or less a counterpart to psychopathy. And for any non-natural psychopaths, this may come in very handy. So you can have Machiavellianism as a staple, and narcissism. And then over here is where psychopathy should be. Pardon me, that was terrible. But I opt to take the core tenets from that, which I will get to in a second, and temper it with charm. Right? Because a combination of self-confidence from narcissism, strategy from Machiavellianism, and core principles of charm will allow you to do pretty much anything that you need to do in terms of social interactions. For example, I will lead this into a scenario. I will use the word I because it makes it easier to describe the scenario. I am here. This is me. Um, there are a number of people here representing a social group. I do not know how many of them there are, right? I do know one of them fairly well. Say we are close friends. Through general conversation, I have ascertained that this group has a secret that I am fairly interested in finding out. This original trifecta would be able to accomplish this task. I personally think that this adjusted one would accomplish the task easier. I will go over both ways, and you may or may not find it beneficial to adopt charm into your lifestyle. If there are any natural born triad members out there that feel that charm is not something that they can do, that is fine. I will have the alternate approach outlined here. Firstly, I think the best idea is just to go to basics. The one contact you have in the group should be used to find out core things like the amount of people involved. All right. So once you figure out who and how many people are involved in this sort of little gossip mongering group, then you can influence each one of them indirectly. So say you figured out there was 4 people in that group. All right. That means you don't have to worry about unknowns. It's just these 4 people right here. That was an awful circle. All right. So once you figure out who there are and how many of them there are, you can move on to step 2, which is either figuring out the secret or preparing the groundwork. I will go through groundwork now. Oops. So I'm going to write that down, and then I'm going to erase everything, and I'm going to outline what you need to do. This is the format I will be taking for most of these episodes, by the way, outlining a specific issue and then solving it using the 48 laws and triad principles. Now, in terms of groundwork, what you need to do is develop a fairly solid bio on each of the 4 members. All right. So if you can figure out that maybe 2 of them are insecure, which I'll label with an I each. 2 of them have, or sorry, one of them has a very large ego, and the other one is possibly able to be blackmailed via the information contained within the secret. You can approach any or all of them, and once you have their, key flaw, their chink in the armor, etc., you can extract any amount of information. Now, how you do this is up to you. A psychopath would potentially take a very direct route. Now, there are a number of reasons why this might not be advisable, and that is because you would not wish to incriminate yourself. All right. So the 48 laws would suggest letting someone else do the work and then taking the credit for it. You could very easily play to one of the people's insecurities and suggest that this person right here that is in danger of being blackmailed does not trust them with the secret, and imply that you yourself know the secret and make them feel like an outsider via their insecurity. All right. At this point, they'll go running over to this person, and we'll take these people out because they do not matter. At this point, they will come running over to this person, and there will be some projecting, presumably. This person will project onto that person to try and, make themselves feel better, make themselves seem more trustworthy, etc., etc. You can, at this point, if the conversation occurs in real life, eavesdrop. That would be very easy. Or you can intercept them before they get to this point and use the friction that you've created between these 2 people to pump them for information. Saying such loaded sentences like, I don't feel comfortable discussing, and then you just use loaded terminology like I don't know. Supposing the secret was about some form of affair between this person and another person, you could say, I don't feel comfortable discussing the relationship between person A and person B, or whatever have you, but make it sound as if you know the secret. All right. And that will allow them to A, open up to you, and B, it'll make them even more concerned about their nature, their relationship with the group and the dynamic within the group. Anything you can do to offset this person and make them feel ill at ease is advised. Alternatively, the charmer would probably use the egotistical one, right? He would go up to them, probably like sidle up to them in a corridor or whatever, maybe on Facebook or whatever, and apply to his, better interests, right? Just subtle compliments, basic flattery. It's not hard. A lot of the problems that you will face in your everyday life can be solved by very, very simple applications of one or more of the laws. It is just about finding which combination of them works. And I cannot stress this enough, getting all the information. All right. If you know someone inside and out, it is easy, very easy to manipulate them. No difficulties whatsoever. But yes, assuming you don't know the person particularly well, sidle up to them and just have a conversation. Figure out what they like and don't like. All right, you don't even have to talk about the secret. All that matters is gaining some rapport between the two of you and eventually being able to extract information from them. This is where charm and tact and skill and conversation becomes an important part of your lifestyle. When you are able to talk about one thing but mean another, and have the person fully unaware of that, that is when you will know you have mastered tact. All right. I'm not going to go over any speech. I might save that for a later time because I'm getting a little tired as it is now. But yes, those are the multiple routes you can go down. It's a fairly simple problem. It just requires a little bit of nitty-gritty and a little bit of prep work. All right. Um, Last but not least, I will go over blanket approaches for solving a problem. The one thing that I would like to stress as much as I possibly can is you need to have a goal. GOAL. All right. If you do not know what you want to achieve, you will not be able to achieve it, because I struggled for a long time on various research into triad principles, into social dynamics, into basically anything under the sun. I read basically every book there is to read. I read Cialdini, I read Carnegie, I read Darren Brown, for Christ's sakes. I read basically everything, and I came to one conclusion. If I do not know what I want, I will not be able to get it. So with that, I recommend that you figure out what you want. In the scenario I provided there, I knew what my outcome was. I wanted to know whatever sort of little secret that group had manifested and was hiding from the general public. All right. And then I achieved that with the methods I outlined. All right. That was my goal. All right. If your goal is simply to attain power, figure out who has the power, how you can get the power, and go from there. All right. Every outcome requires planning. I cannot stress that enough. All right. Most endeavors are not difficult. You will be able to achieve most outcomes via fairly basic methods. And as a result, I would like to set up a format for future videos. In the comments section, merely tell me what you would like me to speak about in greater depth, because this was a fairly basic video. It was an introduction of sorts. If there is a problem you would like me to go over, I can do so, incorporating, specific laws. I can make references, etc., etc. I will go in as much depth as you want. I would just like to know what it is you would like me to talk about, because this is a very broad topic. There are lots of things to cover. I can't possibly cover them all within the scope of a few half-an-hour videos, but I will try. All right, it just depends on what the audience wants. And I think that's about it. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope I was able to clear some things up for you. And yes, as I said, provide me with enough feedback and direction, and I will be able to show you the world. Which sounds like a bit of a grandiose term, and it is, but I don't care. All right, tell me what you want, and I will be able to provide that for you. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't have anything else I want to say. This has been Moribund. Thank you for listening, and I'm out.